versus YongHwa.
Starting to the bottom right, we have the KT Rolls Terran player. It is Flash, down a game in the best of 3 series here at the GSL Code A. It is his map pick. Can he take the game and bring us into a third? Starting to the top left, we have his opponent for IM. It is YongHwa. With a really good game on the last map. Solid performance here from the IM Protoss player. And he was just showcasing that he is in a really good shape against Terran these days. His track record against in PvT is not coming from nowhere.
Yeah, he's just he used a harassment-based style on a map that has a wide ramp, so you're not going to have a tight wall there, so DTs can kind of go around. Flash made a few mistakes. He left his depots lowered in between his main base and his natural. That one time the DT got in there, didn't have a turret at his natural, which is understandable considering he had one at his front and he had one in his main base, so he didn't expect the DT to get past his wall. He lost a lot of SVs there, and just the constant harass, you know, and he was really good at spotting the DTs. It was just that he had to keep scanning, and every time you scan, you cost yourself money, and in the long run, besides the money lost on the scans, you're losing harvesters, you're losing a few marines.
It was just at the beginning, once again, the problem that you have this massive ramp on Daedalus, because on a small ramp, if you have a single file ramp, for example, the DT never gets into the main base, but because he had to cover so much ground, he didn't really know where the DT would try to enter, so the DT can walk past the missile turret. Suddenly he has to drop another scan, then we have the War Prism, so everything that YongHwa did was just really well organized there. And also this time, he doesn't leave anything to chance. He's already with a probe at the bottom right of the map and sees the early gas for his opponent.
Yep, he's able to identify that. There's the Cybernetics core going down. Sticking with the one gas so far. We'll likely add another one very soon. The reactor goes up here again for Flash. And wouldn't be surprised to see him do the exact same build. This is what he's shown us multiple times already. Very recently in Pro League and already in Game 1 of this best of 3. So wouldn't be surprised to see anything different.
I mean, I would expect exactly the same thing in Double Reaper now, but the thing is, of course, he has to be careful since in the first game it didn't really work for him. We have now an eBay block here, right at the expansion spot for YongHwa. SCV has to turn around quite early, though.
Yep, and this means he has to actually... Well, he didn't have to keep his Zealot. He canceled it, and then he restarted it, and then he canceled it again to get a Stalker because he doesn't really need it. But the SCV is already that low, and the eBay is not really that up to its hit points. Now it starts. One of the fastest building structures in the game. And the two Reapers that come out here while the Stalker is occupied dealing with a Bay, well, that was his plan, is to come into the base and do some annoyance. But it's not going to take that long for the Stalker to kill this Bay, just simply because it didn't build really past 375 hit points.
Yeah, the Reapers are going to be on the way in just a few seconds, but the Commander, of course, also started for Flash. We still have a probe back there that can double-check what's going on in the main base, and, of course, also confirm the base being built. Tries actually to take down the SCV, but one of the Reapers turns around and says thank you for that delayed Christmas present.
Feels that way. It does delay the command center slightly and confirms that it's there. And forces a Reaper back, which is kind of... I mean, it's not the best thing in the world for him. It's not like that's going to be a game changer, but it makes it a little bit easier to defend.
That Reaper just likes to jump up and down cliffs. There was no reason for him to go up and down. And again, he could have just
He's just having fun. He's checking out his new jetpack.
Yeah.
He just spawned, you know, it's his first time.
I think it's the improved version. You can jump a little bit higher with that.
There he goes. Jumps high enough to jump into the main base and sees the Forge. Seeing the Forge as a Terran player gives you this feeling of, okay, he's not going to attack me with anything aggressively, but wow, he's going to have really fast upgrades. So it's like it's a good and bad feeling. Double-edged sword there.
Yeah, double kill on that Reaper. Gets another probe in the main base. That's the same Reaper that took out the probe that was harassing the SCV at the bottom right that was trying to build the command center. So 2 kills on that. Not too much accomplished in the main base just yet, and YongHwa will have those Stalkers presence to make sure that Flash is not just simply jumping up that ramp again and getting more scouting information in the base.
Yeah, this is a position where YongHwa again goes into the faster Colossus tech, not going into Twilight Council. We'll likely get 1-1 upgrades off of one Forge before adding the second Forge on the Twilight Council. He's going to go faster Colossi. This is something he's done ever since Wings of Liberty. He has this very defensive Protoss versus Terran style where he only attacks once the Terran has like either taken significant harassment damage from him, which is what we saw in Game 1, or the Terran is attacked into his defense enough times where he has an advantage. That's generally how YongHwa likes to play this matchup. Reaper does survive there, just with a few hit points, but the Stalker's, like you said, ready to deny.
And Flash now moving across with the small Bioforce, the biggest obstacle, of course, being the Mothership core with the Photon Overcharge, trying to bait that out and get the energy, or like drowning the energy from the Mothership Core is the only thing that he can really accomplish there. Unless he gets a lucky snipe, which is kind of unlikely to happen without Stim. So he's trying to chase that Mothership Core, but he doesn't get close enough. And the only thing that YongHwa has to do, and he doesn't even hesitate, drops that Photon Overcharge and is like, yeah, here you go.
Yep. Just picking away at those Marines. And Twilight Council is on the way as the robotic support bay is finishing up. And with the Twilight Council this quick, actually, with the robotics bay, instead of getting range, he's probably going to get +2 armor pretty quick. You know, he doesn't have enough gas to do all of these things. The Reaper actually sneaks into the main base. This is so nice for Flash. And he's going to come over here and see the Forge is spinning still. He sees the bay and the Twilight Council. He knows exactly where all the tech is if he wants to try to snipe that later in a drop.
It's pretty amazing that he's able to get in there. I thought that the Stalkers would be able to stop him, but no, Reaper gets the scouting information and is even still alive. Takes another tour through the main base and might even get another probe kill here. And he does. Flash is poking at the same time at the front. The Reaper with 3 kills already. Might even get a 4th, and that's what's happening right here. I don't think that he's going to be able to escape this time. Nope, not quite, but that was a solid performance.
Yep. Really nice defense here. Flash is still poking at the front, hoping that he can get something done. Without medevacs, though, it's going to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, and thanks to the Observer, YongHwa knows about all the movements of the Terran player, so he knows immediately if Flash is trying to go into the natural again. But now it's time for the few medivacs to come into play. As soon as the medivacs are there, we will see that drop play into the main base, and Flash can start to just try to drop at the natural, drop in the main base, draw those forces out a little bit, maybe kill a couple of probes.
Yeah, and the concern is that both of the overcharges have been used. He's baited both, and now he's in a position where if he goes into the main base, there's not going to be that emergency overcharge to save him, to save YongHwa from the attack. He's going to be closer to getting 1. The Mothership Core, of course, constantly building energy over time.
Yeah, the Terran player has a pretty solid army there. It's 52 army supply against 22. YongHwa is really just pressing out the tech as fast as he can, going for the range upgrade, going for blink.
It's just because he's not making units, you know? He's just only researching his tech.
Exactly, he's going for massive tech, but that also results in him having a smaller army. He's really relying a lot on the Mothership Core, but the energy is already gone. The double Colossi here can do a lot, but it's not. He doesn't have a lot of protection, and range is not done just yet, so it's very dangerous.
Yeah, range is not done yet.
With just a simple stim, you know, you can cross the distance to the Colossi and just burst them down with all the DPS that you have.
There's not a single Zealot on the map. And there's the second Forge finally starting to spin. But I mean, he's researching range, +2 armor, plus the +1 attack, plus he had blink, of course, going out, and he's trying to produce Colossi. That's why he doesn't have any units. You know, I always going to play this one a little bit differently, but he's really trying to get his tech up first. And that's what the Mothership Core allows you to do, but once the overcharge has been baited out twice, that's when things get really scary here. Time Warp is beautiful on these units, and Flash is going to have to run away.
Flash is trying to get away there, and he could not do any damage with this. Had to stim to get out of the Time Warp as well. At the same time, he's really preparing back at home, though. He's getting the 3rd base, going into the Coast Academy, additional barracks for production. So starting even with those Vikings against the Colossi as soon as he sees them. And it's really him preparing for whatever he has to. Like, it's going to be very difficult for YongHwa to approach his army this time. He doesn't get that early advantage that he had in the last game thanks to the Dark Templar tech.
Yeah, and this is Flash controlling the map. This is what happens if you let Flash control the map and take a 3rd base. It's going to get ahead of you economically. Relatively even in Harvester count, which is great for him with 3 mules. 3rd base, the Ghosts, the Vikings. He's got all of the next steps that he wants here going forward. And YongHwa, the only thing he can do is continue his upgrades. He's getting 2-2 right now. He can keep chrono boosting those, get his charge out. And once his 3rd base is up and he gets 6 gases, that's the point in time when the Protoss can have both the Templar and the Colossus take the switch between comfortably and really go into those 3-3 upgrades. So that's something Flash is going to have to, of course, be aware of. This Observer will likely be killed. Flash is very good at seeing invisible units.
Yeah, this time it looks like he misses it, but YongHwa already knows that it's coming. The army, that is.
Yep.
+2 armor is completed, so that is going to play a major role in the next battle, on the battle to come. The army supply is still massively in favor of Flash. He had a much better start in this game than he did in the last one. 3rd base up for YongHwa as well, just in a second. So 3 base versus 3 base, and this is the one that YongHwa wants to defend. The Mothership Core is there, can drop another Photon Overcharge. There are the Stalkers, need to blink away, snipe a quick Viking before they do though.
Yeah, and forces the medevacs all to use boost. Okay, this makes this push so much scarier because this essentially becomes like 150 army supply versus a 76 army supply. He doesn't have Storm yet.
Those Colossi are so important now. Here comes the Photon Overcharge. The Colossi are dancing, but Flash is moving to the left side. YongHwa is trying to just go and flank this army. He's moving in, but the Colossi are being pushed back by all the Vikings. And this is exactly what YongHwa is trying to snipe, but at the same time the Terran player is going down on that third base and sniping the Nexus.
Nexus is gone, and 5 Colossi is still remaining here. Charge is almost done, but not a whole lot of Zealots left to support them. Flash has stimmed a lot on the other hand. Now he's going for the natural. YongHwa is being so patient. He's waiting for that charge to finish, and he's already eliminated a lot of the Vikings. He's played this so carefully. And here we go. The Colossi is starting to fan out here. Zealots come from both sides, and Flash's army is falling rapidly in supply.
The Vikings are targeting down those Colossi as fast as they can. Flash is losing so much supply as we speak, but the Colossi, they're about to be gone. Only 2 remaining, and the last ones are going down to the Viking power. This is just way too much. YongHwa able to throw this back for now, saving a Colossi with maybe 5 hit points for a second. The Vikings taking it out, dying the death of a hero at the same time. And now it's 3 bases against 2 bases. Both players trading army basically evenly there.
Yeah.
But YongHwa, does he really have the resources that he needs to get this army back into business? Because this force is probably not able to break through Flash's defense.
Well, we'll see. He doesn't have any bunkers up right now. And Flash's defense here is also based on his momentum and his tempo, because he's able to push these Zealots back.
It's too many Marauders against those Stalkers that we have, and YongHwa is already retreating. He's trying to rely on his upgrade advantage, going to +3/+3, but that third base is going to be so important for Flash now.
Yep.
That extra income is just worth so much. He can rebuild his army immediately.
Look
and
at
he's
his
already far ahead in army supply.
Yeah, look at his income. With the mules he's dropping, he's always 50 or 500 minerals per minute ahead. Sometimes going up to about 400, depending on how many mules he's dropped at once and how they're mining. But the upgrades are going to be really good for YongHwa here. And you mentioned the army supply, but don't forget the Protoss army is much more expensive. And as soon as he gets those Archons and some Templar in, you can't really, I mean, in the late game with a approaching maxed out or 150 supply army, you can't even necessarily equate the army supplies of these two together. It's about the compositions, and you got to be careful about, you know, how many Vikings do you have? You can't build too many. He only has 1 Colossus right now, YongHwa that is, so 4 Vikings is actually okay for him with all the Marauders he has. It's 13 to 22 Marauders to Marine count right now.
Talking about the Marauders, they're trying to snipe down those Stalkers, doing a decent job here. The Stalkers once again in cooldown, and he used an additional stim to really chase them away, but now suddenly we have a drop in the main base, and this is something that YongHwa just wasn't prepared for.
His Templar Archives is exposed, and I think that's exactly what Flash is going to target. He does once the probes run away. No way he can save it. There's not going to be any Storm this game. There's not going to be any Archons, and Flash looking solid. Will escape with all of his units, and now while YongHwa's all the way in the main base, he could go and snipe the third!
And he will. He's already stimming in, and those Marauders with the burst damage can take that base down quite easily. They take the Nexus, and things are looking very grim for YongHwa. He's down to 124 supply, 2 bases against 3 still. A much better income for Flash.
Yeah, this is a situation where YongHwa now basically has to trade perfectly against Flash's army, but Flash is just going to walk away because he doesn't have to fight here anymore. He knows he's way ahead in income. He's managed to keep that true.
He has the Viking count that he needs to really deal with the Colossi that we see with the snipe on the Templar Archive. Storm is not becoming an issue for quite some time, so he doesn't have to be afraid to run into Storms that would still ignore the upgrades. The only thing that really works in YongHwa's favor here is the +3/+3 is now completed, but Flash, he's not going to fool around any longer. He's pulling the SCVs once again, and he wants to go for the killing blow.
Yeah, YongHwa is all about the Colossi right now and the Archons. His Zealots are going to make quick work of those SCVs that, of course, have no armor, and the Zealots have so much attack power here. And as soon as he identifies that the SCV pull is on, he wants to get out of here so quickly. He actually starts to engage here a little bit, wants to get the damage done with his Colossi. A good blink here. The Vikings are so overwhelming. They're going to take out these Colossi quite rapidly, but +3 armor actually helping a little bit here. I think Flash has too much.
This is way too much. His DPS just is way too good. The Vikings are gone. There's 1 Colossus remaining, but the problem really is that this is way too much DPS for YongHwa to handle in the long run. It's not enough for him to trade evenly. He has to crush Flash. He's actually ahead in overall supply by a little bit, and Flash lost a lot of Harvesters, but with the Mules he should still be fine there. But actually with the second Colossus going into the battle, he can throw this back.
Yeah, no Vikings left, and that Archon is still alive, taking a lot of shots here. Sentry's being warped in because he had so much bank and gas. Didn't have the Templar Archives to warp in more Archons. But this is looking really bad for Flash suddenly here. And if he gets force fielded, he's going to have to use those medevacs to lift up, and that's when the Stalkers are going to come in.
Yeah, keeping the first Colossus alive, and then when the second one joined up, that gave him so much firepower against Bio. And YongHwa holds, which is actually really incredible.
It's just the upgrades, man. I mean, that's definitely what's happening here. Now he's got a third base up.
That 3-3, it's really coming through for the Protoss here.
Flash just thought he had the game won with his aggressive army.
I thought so too.
I don't even think he has an armory. If he does, I mean, it doesn't matter anymore because he can't really try to.
Oh my god.
GG.
Wow, that snipe, Flash moving in, unbelievable. The 3-3 upgrades, winning YongHwa the battle, keeping his Colossi alive, and YongHwa takes it with a 2-0 that last battle. Sniping those Vikings, keeping the first Colossus alive, getting the second one in there, the upgrades doing so much damage, and then he sees the Medivacs, he blinks in, takes both of them.
This is, you know, if you're a Flash fan, so frustrating to watch because he had the game nearly won.
It was so close, yeah, but the
this
upgrades
is just
so much.
This is just a really great symbol of YongHwa's resilience in this matchup, and why Artosis loves him so much. I hope Artosis is watching right now, as he's
well, he missed his flight, so if he's still at the airport, he probably is.
Yeah, he's probably you know, watching somewhere like on his phone or on a tablet or something. He's probably the #1 YongHwa fan out there. So I'm sure he's looking at this and saying that's how YongHwa plays, and that's why I like him.
Flash really, I also like that he had this one. I mean, he snipes the Templar Archive. He knows there's no storms. The only thing that he has to deal with in terms of area of effect damage are those Colossi. And he felt really confident. He pulled the SCVs, went in again, and at first it looked really good. The Vikings got good shots off. They took the first Colossi out. One was just barely surviving. But then suddenly he didn't have the firepower anymore. The Colossus does so much damage. The upgrades really coming through.
It's
the armor
tricky.
upgrade making the army a little bit more beefy.
Right.
At the same time, the damage, and then Colossus #2 joins the battle.
It's tricky for the Vikings, for example, because that +3 armor is applied twice to their attacks, because their rockets are 2 rockets. The armor gets applied twice. I don't even think Flash had, I mean, if he doesn't have an armor, he's not going to have +1 for the Vikings. So that means the unupgraded Vikings fighting the Colossi, it just takes so long for them to die. That's why one of those survived there at the end, and then eventually all those Vikings disappear. The rest of the Colossi come, the second Colossus comes. That one Archon tanked so much damage, and the Marauders got really low, so Flash started stimming and running. These units get very low in hit points, and they'll have the armor to compete with the +3 for the Zealots, and I mean, it's just a battle of upgrades, really. And Flash really thought he had the overwhelming number, and it was a razor-thin battle. I mean, he really almost took it.
And then he starts with that double drop, and that was a really good idea because it was so tough for YongHwa to actually go back into the main base. But with that scout and that blink underneath the Medivacs, taking both of them down, Flash knew, okay, this is game. But guys, we're going to have a quick commercial break before we are going into our next battle, Lenok versus Bravo, so stay tuned, and we'll be back in 5.